You know, if you go to a Python programmer, somebody who uses maybe Golang or PHP or Rust or any pretty well-known technology out there, and if you walk up to one of those developers and say, hey man, why don't you use WordPress? Well, we developers cannot agree on much, but I think it's safe to say that all of us would pretty much give you the same answer. If you go up to the average .NET developer or something and say, why don't you just use WordPress? They would surely say, because the code is a rat's nest, because it's difficult to upgrade, because it's a little bit esoteric. Nobody quite knows how best to use the modules and whatnot. It's not very search engine friendly. The pages are slow loading, and it's not particularly secure. I think most developers, regardless of what they were using, would give that answer, apart from WordPress developers, of course. But you know, it has occurred to me that recently JavaScript has become the new WordPress. And I don't mean JavaScript the language, I suppose I mean the community. Last night, very late, I recorded a tutorial that was on the theme of build your own postman. Now, what I did in that tutorial was about 1% of what the Postman software package does. So it was incredibly simple, but it was a fast-paced tutorial and I was pleased with it. And after I had finished, about 15 minutes later, I had a quick look on YouTube and I noticed that someone else had a go at build your own Postman alternative. It was the channel Web Dev Simplified. And I had a look at the end product from that tutorial, and both of them took about the same time. I think mine was 7 minutes longer. Then I looked at the end product from my own tutorial. I had a look at the features from that one. I had a look at the features from mine. And in the comments, I had to acknowledge that the end product from the other tutorial was better. It looked better, it had better CSS, better features. It was just a better end product in terms of looks and features. That doesn't happen very often, but there you go. Oh, actually, I had something else to say. You know, before we all run off and enroll for the next NPM course on Udemy, I thought that maybe we could take a moment to just have a quick look at some of the highlights, just some of the highlights from that other tutorial. Let's have a quick look, and I've speeded it up a bit just for brevity.
The first dependency we're going to need is Axios, which is going to allow us to make all of our different API requests. Then we're going to need another package from CodeMirror, and this one's going to be called View. And the first package is called Basic Setup. And then we're going to install a dev dependency, and this one is going to be called Snowpack. Then what we need to do is install our last package here. This is just going to allow us to bundle up all of our different node modules into our actual JavaScript code and deploy it so we can use it inside of a production application. And in order to do this, we're going to be using a library called CodeMirror. So we need to install a bunch of packages from @CodeMirror. And to run this start script, all we need to do is say snowpack dev, and that's going to start up a development version of our application. Then another one from @CodeMirror, and this one's called commands. And this div is just going to have a class of p4, and it's just to give our elements some spacing. As you can see, we have a pretty large amount of spacing all around everything, so this p4 is going to give us all that spacing. And inside here is where we're actually going to import Bootstrap. So we can just say import Bootstrap, and we also need to make sure that we import the CSS. So we're going to import bootstrap/dist/css. I'm going to import editor state and basic setup, and then finally one last from CodeMirror. Make sure I spell that properly. Then what we need to do is install our last package here, and this is just going to be the Bootstrap package, and this is called bootstrap.min.css. This one's called lang JSON, since all of our code is going to be in JSON. And that's so that we can actually do all the styles you see on the right here. They're all done entirely in Bootstrap. Now to get started, the very first thing I want to do is to create our index HTML page, and then we need to install a few dependencies.
Yes, Yes, I told you I speeded it up, and yes, I plead guilty to shuffling it around a wee bit, but I did not repeat any of it. And yes, there were instances where he said the first package we're gonna need, and then a minute or two later he'd say the first package we're gonna need, and then he said the last package we're gonna need, and then later on he said and the last package we're gonna need. My friends, you know what's coming up. You know exactly what's coming up because you know me. You're all waiting on me to give you my opinion. My opinion is that third-party library dependency is bullshit. And moreover, what we just watched there was not web development. That was not web development. That was installing a bunch of third-party libraries. That's not web development. Now, you may or may not disagree. You have that luxury. Let me tell you something that's not an opinion. Here's what's not an opinion. I woke up today to a message that came in from a member of Speed Coding Academy. John Paul, hello to you. He says, I'm starting to work through the online shop project. The project is going well, but the Defiant CSS website doesn't seem to exist anymore. Thought I would mention it. Thank you, John Paul, and we'll talk later on. Now, Defiant CSS is a third-party CSS library that I used in Speed Coding Academy, and I recorded about 200 video tutorials using that particular library. Now, that website has gone. Just vanished. Disappeared. It has ceased to exist. And I stand before you today as somebody who now has to re-record actually about 400 videos because of this bullshit. And it happened before. It happened with Blueprint, another CSS library that I liked. And sure enough, I did an entire series on that with about 60 videos. I believe it was the Build a Speed Coding Academy clone series. And as soon as I finished, I contacted the guy who made that framework. I said, that was awesome. I love your work. I've used it. I think it's great. I want to tell everybody about what you're doing. It's fantastic. And do you know how the guy responded? He did not say, thank you. He did not say, that's awesome. No, he responded by saying, and I quote, just wait until you see version 3. It's coming out in 2 weeks' time. I remember just a few years ago, I got a phone call from Glasgow Uni. They called me in to see if I could help them with their broken intranet system. And the guy opened it up, massive big system for the university. And they were using Bootstrap 2. And it looked so old and so out of date. And the shame on his face, I tell you, man, that shame could have reversed the melting of the icebergs. Third-party library dependency is an absolute mugs game. And it has occurred to me recently that all of the objections that you could previously have dished out for WordPress, I think you could now dish out those objections for the JavaScript community. But the thing is, and I know there's one or two WordPress developers who enjoy watching this, so here's your little feel-good moment. When it comes to the business of point and click, or command line and install, and just bungling together stuff, I think WordPress is 50 steps ahead of all of us. They're certainly better at this than the Node.js community. Haven't you looked at Google News lately? I went on just a minute ago. Please do it. I don't care if you're watching 3 years into the future. Go to Google News and search for NPM. I just did it. First story. Malicious NPM packages are part of malware barrage hitting repositories. I've been speaking about this for years, and I cannot find not one single YouTuber talking about this. So, do I think that the guy with the JavaScript tutorial came out with a better end product? Absolutely. And if I had known about his video, I would have spent 15 minutes or so adding a couple of features and a couple of bits of CSS, and maybe I would have had something in that league. But the difference is, his tutorial will probably be out of date, maybe even by the time you've watched this. My tutorial will stand for 10 years. And when you are in the business of commercial development, and when you charge companies 4, 5, 6-figure sums for IT systems, I can assure you, they don't want a phone call 6 months down the line saying there's been a new version of Webpack or some new Symfony version or whatever, or some new Bootstrap and your stuff's all out of date. They do not want that phone call. And I'm going a lot further than usual here, folks, because not only am I accusing the JavaScript community of dishing out toilet paper, more than that, I'm saying that that's not web development. That's not web development. When I did my tutorial using this incredible framework, you want to know how many third-party library dependencies I used? None. 0. Not one single third-party library dependency. Now, by the way, I suppose strictly speaking, anybody who uses that this framework of, that I'm looking at here, I suppose they're technically using a third-party library dependency. But those people can sleep very comfortably at night, knowing that nobody on the planet Earth has spoken out about rewrite culture more than this guy. I actually coined the phrase. I was the first person to even use that phrase. And for the first time, we have a framework that is built for stability. Oh, hallelujah. But take the focus away from me, folks. I have a question for those NPM lovers out there. You see, from my perspective, it looks like you guys are now playing the same game as the WordPress developers. And from where I'm sitting, I think WordPress and Drupal for that matter, and Joomla, probably Concrete 5 and a whole bunch of others, I think they're doing a better job. And my question for the JavaScript community is this: what do you think separates you from the average WordPress developer on Fiverr.com? What makes you any different from that character who charges $5 for an app? Oh, is it? Oh, the command line. Oh, I felt that energy. Oh, so you use the command line. Oh, cock-a-doodle-doo. What a great intellect you are. Well, you can only play that hand for so long. I don't think you're a genius for using the command line. I think you're probably somebody with low self-esteem who thinks that it's going to impress people because you sit with a command line interface. No, it doesn't impress anyone. That's not a skill. That's just some intelligence signaling. We hear about virtue signaling, this interesting phrase. Well, I'm calling what you guys are doing intelligence signaling. And as far as I'm concerned, 3 cheers for WordPress. They're not all hanging about with the command line going, yeah, here we go, I'm such an intellect. No, they've got nice interfaces. You click and you view and it looks beautiful and there's pictures and there's accountability and everything. I think the WordPress developers are 50 steps ahead of the JavaScript community right now. I'm not knocking JavaScript as a language. I'm talking about that community. You know the one. And so that's web development on YouTube. And that's why I've stopped watching web development channels.